God never puts you through a test to crush you or to strip you of hope. He's not like the world, setting traps just to watch you fail. Every trial that has come your way has been permitted with a divine purpose in mind. When the pressure came, it wasn't sent to break you down. It was meant to bring the gold out of you. Just as fire purifies gold, the heat of your situation was refining your faith, removing the impurities of doubt, fear, and self-reliance. When God allows a test, He's not looking for a reason to disqualify you. He's preparing a platform to promote you. Think of it. He already knows the end from the beginning, so He knew you had the capacity to stand. The enemy may have meant it for evil, but God allowed it because He saw that the very thing meant to harm you would become the stepping stone to lift you higher. Tests in the kingdom are not for humiliation, they are for elevation. And when you pass, there's always a next. The test was never the destination, it was the doorway. The very struggle that made you wonder if you would survive is now the evidence that you're ready to carry more. The greater the test, the greater the promotion. God will not trust untested faith with unmeasured blessing. This is why He let you face what you faced. So when the reward comes, you'll know it was not your own strength, but His hand that brought you through. Faith doesn't shine the brightest when everything is easy. It shows its true strength when the heat is turned up. The fire reveals what's genuine. When you're in the middle of the flames, when prayers seem unanswered, when the pressure is unrelenting, that's when faith stands up and says, I still believe. The fire strips away the superficial and exposes the real foundation of your trust in God. But the fire was never designed to last forever. Even in nature, every flame eventually dies down once its purpose is complete. In the Spirit, it's the same. God allows you to walk through the fire so your faith can be tested, purified, and strengthened. But He also marks an end to that season. You are not called to live in the furnace. You were called to walk out of it without the smell of smoke, just like the 3 Hebrew boys. Now, there comes a moment when God says, that's enough. The refining is finished. And just as quickly as the trial began, you step into the fresh air of victory. The fire might feel endless when you're inside it, but heaven has already set the timer. The same God who was with you in the flames will be the one to lead you out into your promised place. Obedience is not always glamorous, and it's rarely easy. Sometimes it means saying yes when your flesh wants to say no, moving when you'd rather stay still, or staying still when everything in you wants to run ahead. But every act of obedience is a seed sown into the soil of God's plan. You may not see the results immediately, but heaven takes note of every time you choose His will over your own. When you obey in the small things, you're proving to God that you can be trusted with greater things. Every step you took in alignment with His Word was moving you closer to the place of promotion. It wasn't just about passing a test. It was about positioning yourself for what He had already prepared. The world rewards talent and connections, but the kingdom rewards obedience. It is the currency of advancement in God's system. Your obedience unlocked doors that no man could open and shut the mouths of voices that said you wouldn't make it. It silenced the plans of the enemy and gave God the legal right to pour out blessings you wouldn't have received otherwise. You didn't compromise, you didn't turn back, and you didn't bow to the pressure. And because you obeyed, heaven has issued a decree. It's time to move from the waiting room to the throne room, from the servant's quarters to the place of authority. God's nature is to reward. He's not stingy, and He's not holding back just to see how much you can endure. His word declares that he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. And that means he takes delight in blessing the ones who make him their priority. Seeking him diligently is more than a quick prayer when trouble comes. It's a lifestyle of pursuing his presence, his voice, and his will. It's choosing him in the quiet moments when no one is watching, and honoring him when the spotlight is on you. Every time you turn to him instead of leaning on your own understanding, you are sowing into a harvest that heaven keeps track of. Your worship, your prayers, your sacrifices, they were never wasted. Even when it felt like nothing was changing, every act of seeking him was building a spiritual account that only he could see. And now that account is ready to be released in your life. God does not forget the midnight prayers, the moments you lifted your hands through tears, or the times you chose his way over the easy way. He responds to hunger. When your heart is set on him above all else, he responds with favor, provision, protection, and breakthrough. The reward is not just in what he gives you, but in how he reveals himself to you, because the greatest reward for seeking him is always more of him. Delay can feel like the hardest part of the journey because the waiting tests your patience, your endurance, and sometimes even your faith. But in the kingdom, a delay is never wasted time. God uses it as a season of preparation, shaping you for what he has already promised. He's not just working on the circumstances around you. He's working on the inside of you, building the character, wisdom, and strength you'll need to handle the blessing when it comes. If he gave it to you too soon, it could crush you instead of lift you. Preparation time is never lost time. It's the place where God equips you to steward what he's about to release. Every closed door, every not yet, and every pause has been intentional. While you thought nothing was happening, heaven was aligning people, resources, and opportunities in your favor. The delay has also been proving your trust. It's easy to believe when the answer comes quickly, but real faith holds on through the long nights and silent seasons. And when the appointed time comes, the release will make sense. You'll see that the waiting was the very thing that made you ready for the weight of the promise. God's timing is not slow, it's perfect. So what feels like delay is his way of setting you up for a blessing that's not just enough for now, but will sustain you for the seasons ahead. When God declares that the test is over, it marks more than just the end of a difficult season. It signals the start of a new flow of his blessing. The test was the proving ground, the place where your faith was stretched, your endurance was strengthened, and your trust was solidified. You didn't walk through it for nothing. Every tear, every prayer, every moment you chose to keep standing was an investment into the season you're stepping into now. Overflow doesn't come before the test because you wouldn't know how to carry it. But once you've come through the fire, you're ready to handle the abundance without it becoming a weight that pulls you down. God doesn't just bring you out, he brings you out into more than enough. The same God who sustained you in the wilderness is now the one pouring into your life in ways you can't contain. This is the shift where provision overtakes need, where opportunities chase you down instead of you chasing them, and where favor becomes your new normal. The test was temporary, but the overflow is meant to be continual, because it's not just about blessing you. It's about making you a channel for his goodness to touch others. What once was a season of barely enough is now turning into a testimony of more than enough. When you plant a seed, You never expect it to come back in the same size or form. You expect it to multiply. That's the way God designed it in the natural, and it's the same in the spiritual. Every prayer you prayed, every act of faith, every moment you chose to give when it cost you something was a seed sown into the soil of God's promise. And the law of his kingdom is that the harvest always outweighs the seed. You may have sown in weakness, but you will reap in strength. You may have planted through tears, but you will gather in joy. God takes the little you put into his hands and breathes his life on it until it becomes something far greater than you could have imagined. No seed you've sown in obedience is ever lost. It is working underground, taking root, and preparing to burst forth in a season you can't miss. The beauty of God's harvest is that it doesn't just meet your need, it overflows so you can meet the needs of others. The handful you sowed in faith can return as a field full of blessing. The hours you gave in service, the kindness you extended when no one was watching, the faith you held on to in the dark, all of it has been producing in the unseen. And when the harvest comes, it will remind you that you never outgive God and you never plant in vain when you plant in his name. When God blesses you, he doesn't intend for the blessing to stop with you. His nature is abundance, and abundance can't be contained in one vessel. It spills over. The reward he's bringing into your life is designed to touch the lives of those around you. The provision, the favor, the opportunities, they're not just answers to your prayers, they're solutions for someone else's need. The overflow becomes a testimony that draws others to him. People will see what he's done for you and realize he can do it for them too. Your story becomes a living invitation for others to trust him. What you've walked through has positioned you not only to receive, but to become a conduit of his goodness. You'll find yourself giving, encouraging, and opening doors for others in ways you couldn't before, simply because God poured more into you than you could ever use for yourself. This is why the enemy fought you so hard, because your breakthrough isn't just personal, it's generational. It will ripple into your family, your community, and beyond. The blessing on your life will heal, restore, and uplift others who cross your path. When God rewards you, it's never just about you. It's about creating a flow of his love and provision that keeps moving until it transforms everything it touches. The enemy doesn't waste his energy on areas that don't matter. He attacks the places of greatest potential in your life, the battles that felt the most intense, the ones that seemed unrelenting, were not random. They were targeted strikes against the very territory God intends to give you. The devil saw hints of your destiny long before you could, and he tried to wear you down before you could step into it. And that's why certain areas of your life have been under constant pressure. Your health, your relationships, your finances, your calling. The opposition was fierce because the blessing attached to that area is great. The enemy hoped that if he could discourage you, distract you, or make you quit, you'd never see the promise fulfilled. But what he underestimated is that every attack only drove you deeper into God's presence, sharpening your faith and fortifying your resolve. The very battlefield where you face the greatest resistance is about to become the place of your greatest testimony. What the enemy meant for destruction, God is turning into a platform for his glory. The harder Satan fought, the clearer it becomes that God has prepared something extraordinary for that area. The warfare was proof that the blessing is real, and now that you've endured, You're about to see the enemy's plan backfire as God releases his promise over your life in full measure. You spent a long season toiling, pushing, and striving just to keep moving forward. It felt like every step required all your strength, and even then the progress was slow. But God is declaring a shift, a change in how you move and how you receive. This is not about working harder. It's about walking in his favor. Where you once had to knock on doors, now doors will open before you. Where you once had to fight for every inch, now territory will be given to you without struggle. Labor was necessary for a time because it built endurance, discipline, and trust in God. But favor takes you where effort alone never could. Favor brings divine connections, supernatural provision, and opportunities that your resume or resources couldn't secure. It causes you to stand out without trying, to be chosen when others are more qualified on paper, and to receive what you didn't even have the strength to ask for. This shift doesn't mean you stop working. It means your work is now carried by his grace instead of your own strength. The weight you've been carrying is being lifted, and you're stepping into a season where blessings will meet you before you can chase them. The sweat of striving is giving way to the ease of supernatural acceleration. This is the moment where God takes the little you've done and multiplies it beyond measure, proving that his favor can do in a day what labor couldn't accomplish in years. You've walked through the fire, you've faced the test, and you've stood your ground when quitting would have been easier. Heaven has taken note, and the verdict is in. You passed. And now God's word over your life is shifting from endure to receive, from press on to step in. The very areas where the enemy tried to break you are about to become the stages where God displays his glory through you. This is not just the end of a battle, it's the beginning of a harvest. The reward is not coming someday, it's already in motion. Doors are opening, blessings are overflowing, and favor is surrounding you like a shield. The test was temporary, but the promotion is permanent. God's promise still stands, and you are living proof that those who trust him will never be put to shame. Now comes the reward, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. Not just for you, but for everyone your life will touch. Step into it with boldness. This is your moment. This is your promotion. This is your overflow. God says, you passed, now comes the reward.